back to the PhatPhish Guitar Studio. I'm Dave, and this is another one of those videos where I just kind of show you how to play something. I'll show you a riff, then I'll kind of break it down, talk a little bit about the scales involved and some of the theory aspects of it. If you're not into music theory, don't worry about it too much. You'll still get something out of this. You can get a riff that you can play and perhaps use as the basis for something if you own, start messing around, changing notes and so on. And perhaps just use it as a bit of inspiration for like developing your own riffs and using it in your own writing. Okay, so what I'll do just to start off with is I'll play the riff through and then we'll break it down a little bit. Oh, guitar of the day today is my Williams Evo Artist, the teak top custom guitar, going into the PV Valve King just on the dirty channel, a little bit of reverb from a Boss RV6 and some delay from a TC Flashback, and it sounds like this. Into the riff. So one thing that's important about this is not just the notes that we're playing, but the phrasing on it, because there's a few particular things in the way that the notes are picked that I want you to pay attention to. Because often I've seen people like learning a new piece of music and they get so obsessed about playing the right notes and making sure that the fingers are on the right strings at the right frets for every note, that they lose track of what the picking hand's doing, they lose track of phrasing, and the way that the notes are played is just as important as the notes themselves. Okay, so the riff opens with this. What we're playing there is the bottom two strings open, then hammering on with the index finger at the second fret on the fourth and fifth strings, the bottom E string still ringing out. So it's basically what you've got there is an A power chord in second inversion, so we've got an A and an E. And by hammering on, we're going up to an E chord with E, B, and E. And then playing those bottom three strings again with the pick. So it's picked, hammered, picked. And this is what I was getting at before when I said that the phrasing is important. What you're doing with your picking hand and the way you're doing those hammer-ons, it's about giving the progression a bit of a feel, a bit of a groove to it. Also notice what I'm doing with my picking hand, just because it feels comfortable and it kind of keeps the feel of the thing going, is I'm using a downstroke for the first chord, hammering on, and then using an upstroke on the bottom three strings for the second picked part. I'm exaggerating the movement with my right hand slightly so you can see it on the camera. Normally if you're playing that you try and keep it a little bit tighter and a little bit more economical. Okay, so let's take the riff a little bit further and see what happens next. Okay, so what we're doing there is we're picking the B at the fifth string, second fret, picking the C at the third fret on the fifth string, and pulling off to the B at the second fret again, pulling off to the open A string, and then picking the second fret for that B again. And again, it's the phrasing that's important. It's not a really metric thing, it's got a bit of feel to it. Yeah, it's nice, snappy, it's moving with the kind of the feel of the riff. And what happens next is we'll play the same chord part, then we'll play and then we'll take the picking hammer-on pull-off pattern up one string, so we're playing based around the E, the F and the D on the fourth string. Then we'll go back and play the same thing again with the single note run on the 5th string. So we'll get this. One last thing to mention about the way we're playing the chord part there as well is that at the end of the part we're palm muting to stop the strings from ringing out. If you don't do that, you get something that sounds like this. That bottom E string droning away, so it's going to get in the way of the riff. So what we're going to do is bring palm down and mute the strings after we've played them. So we'll let the chord ring out. We're not playing muted chords. We'll let playing full chords that are ringing out, but once the chord's played, bring the palm down to mute it. So it might take you a little bit of time to get the coordination between picking and muting, but practice it, it will come. You'll probably find it's actually easier than you think. Okay, so that's the first section of the riff, if you like. The second part is a fairly straightforward pick pattern, very evenly timed notes, not the snappy sort of phrasing we had. So we're playing the G at the 5th fret on the 4th string, then down to the F at the 3rd fret, the E at the 2nd fret, and then the open 4th string. Then back up to the F at the 3rd fret, down to the E at the 2nd, open 4th string for the D, and then down to the C at the 3rd fret on the 5th string. So if you think of it, we're just playing sequential notes going down through the scale, 1, 2, 3, 4, then back up, going back up to one note below the one we started on in the previous pick pattern. But that, like I said, should be played more evenly, not as snappy as the opening part. So let's play the whole riff through again. Okay, so that's the basic riff, and if I want to look at the notes involved, basically we've got in the opening chord part, we've got E, A, B, and we've got in the single note pattern, we've got G, F, E and D. So these are the notes of C major, but to be honest the piece has got more of a minor feel, so you probably say actually it's the notes of the A minor scale. The way I approach it though is because we've got that E in the bass, rather than saying it's an A minor, I'd say it's probably something modal, and think of it as being the 5th mode of A natural minor. It's actually what the scale that we're thinking about is E Phrygian. So if you think about dialing in E Phrygian into PhatPhish, these are the notes of the scale, so this is where they are around the fingerboard, and these are the notes that we're using in the riff. Okay, so that's the riff, that was our starting point. Let's think about what we can do to maybe make that a little bit more interesting. And one variation I'm going to suggest is, instead of playing a G natural in the single note pattern at the end, why not play G sharp? So if you look at the notes of E Phrygian, G sharp doesn't belong. But G sharp does belong to E Phrygian major. Phrygian major is the 5 mode of the A harmonic minor scale, which has got, and the A harmonic minor has got a fairly distinctive sound. So that scale's got a slightly gothic, sort of neoclassical sort of sound. And if we make this, the change to the notes in our riff, instead of using the G natural, we use a G sharp, make that riff into an E Phrygian major kind of a riff, we'll get something that sounds like this. So you can hear there, they're changing that one note from the G natural to G sharp, because they're going from an E Phrygian riff to something in E Phrygian major. It changes the feel of it. It gives that neoclassical gothic sort of sound. which is really quite nice. And this is something you can experiment with yourself. If you have a riff, you come up with something, say using a natural minor scale, instead of playing the flat 7th degree in there, change it up to a natural 7th, introduce the harmonic minor tonality and see how it sounds. There's no rules, there's no right way, there's no wrong way. It's just little things you can do. When you understand a bit of music theory, you understand scales and so on, there's little things you can do to adapt perhaps like an existing idea and make it into something else and give it a bit more character. Experiment with it. If you've got PhatPhish, you can dial in all sorts of different scales and kind of compare and contrast, so use that as a tool to help you. Okay, I hope you found that interesting. If you did, please click like, please subscribe down there. If you've got a question or a suggestion for something for me to cover in a future video, then if you go here, fill in the form, send your question in, and I'll try and get around to answering it in a future video. To be honest, sending a question into that form is a lot more reliable than just asking something in the comments section on YouTube. To be honest, YouTube's not very good at letting me know when people leave comments, so often questions that are left in the comments section just go unseen. And while you're over on the PhatPhish website asking a question through that form, why not have a browse around at the other content on there, download yourself a copy of PhatPhish, have a look at some of the other downloadable resources, tutorials and all other bits and bobs that I've got on the website. Okay, that's all for now. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in another video soon. Bye for now.